mix it a little bit.
Yummy!
Okay, again, put the lid on. Hi everyone, welcome back to Cooking with Ames. Today I am going to demonstrate how to make a really quick and healthy lunch. Okay, I know everyone right now is probably working from home and they don't have a lot of time during lunch to make their own lunch. Usually if you're at the office, you're gonna go out and grab a quick bite. But when you're working from home, you need to make your own lunch, and it has to be healthy and it should be quick as well. So we'll start with rice. I have two Instant Pots here. I typically use one of my Instant Pots to make rice because when I made the choice, I didn't want to buy a rice cooker, so I just bought a Instant Pot instead. I decided that I'll use the Instant Pot to make rice as well. So what I typically do is I use a half cup to get the rice. Okay, so I just got 1/2 cup, and this is the second half cup, so this is total 1 cup of this Japanese premium rose rice. And I like to mix it up with the basmati rice. This is an Indian rice. It's a premium Indian rice, and I like to mix it up just so that we can get a little bit of everything in there. So 1/2 cup of basmati rice and 2 1/2 cups of the Japanese premium rose rice. You don't have to mix it if you don't want to. Okay, so now we're gonna wash the rice. Turn the water into cold. Make sure you use cold water and just simply, use your hand to kind of, wash the rice a little bit, and then drain the water out. So this is the second round of washing. Typically I wash 2 rounds just so that I can get rid of all the dirt on the rice. But I know some of you, I know when you buy the rice, it says on the package for some rice that you do not need to wash the rice. It's wash-free rice. Then I use the filtered water to add some water into the rice. So this is where I think it's very important. You need to level the rice very evenly. And then you can measure with your index finger. So how you measure the water level is you put down your index finger, and then just as your tip of the finger touches the rice here, you stop, and then you look at where the water level is. So right now it's about here, and it's a little bit too little. So I'm just gonna add a little bit. So right now it's about in the middle of my first section of my index finger. And typically, if you want your rice to be a little bit soft and a little bit runny, then yeah, you add a little bit more water. But for me, I like my rice to be moist, but at the same time, not too much water, so just add a little bit too much. So before you put it into the Instant Pot, you need to make sure all sides of the inner bowl is dry. Okay, make sure that's a very important point. Make sure that your rice is leveled, and then put the lid on. Make sure the this venting tool is pointing up. Okay, and then twist close firm. Okay, make sure this little button is down. Okay, so right now it's at the off mode, so all you need to do is press rice, and that's it. Okay, so rice is set, and that took, I don't know, I mean, if you do it quickly, it probably will take you less than 5 minutes, okay, to do that. Okay, so the next thing, I'm going to fill up the filter water because we'll need the filter water later when we're cooking. Okay, so just make sure that there is enough water there. Okay, so today is Monday. So after the weekend, we made a lot of great food, and then the fridge right now is a little bit empty. Okay, so I really don't have enough of a lot of ingredients in my fridge. So what I have is I found a potato, I found a tomato, I found half of or 1/4 of an onion, I found some mushrooms, I found one carrot, I have 2 eggs and some garlic and 1 green onion and some leftover tofu. Okay, so first I'm gonna wash all the ingredients. So put it in a large mixing bowl like this. Okay, including the mushrooms. Okay, so just wash the ingredients. We're going to first peel the potato. Okay. So usually I leave the ends like unpeeled, and then I come to the cutting board this is a very important step, is that you need to cut out the ends a little bit because there are some growing points in here and sometimes you don't want to eat that. Okay, so you can first cut the potato. So what I typically like to do is I use another dry mixing bowl, right? Just so that, as soon as I cut it, I will, leave it. So typically, the size doesn't have to be so small. I mean, you can. Next, you cut the tomato. Okay. So cut the tomato into, these kind of pieces. So get rid of the ends of it. Okay, and then the next is peel the carrot. And then cut out the ends of the carrots. And then for carrots, I really just I think you can probably just cut into pieces that are fairly large. I mean for the larger end, you can split them into half. So, and then one important thing is organization in the kitchen, right? I want to emphasize this because unless you stay very organized, you're not going to make food very quickly. If you have a bunch of stuff laying around, you're going to be confused and you don't know which one to get, and then things like that. And then so that I emphasize this point because I want to make sure that you guys, after you cut the item, I want you to put those items into each individual containers. Okay, so that's an important point because when the oil gets into the pan, it gets hot really fast. And if you're, scrambling to find items everywhere, you're gonna miss that perfect point to put in your ingredients into the pan. And sometimes you'll have the oil splash everywhere. And so after you cut the carrots, I recommend you combine the carrots with the potatoes. So just simply put them together. Okay, because when you put it into the pan, you can just, dump them into the pan all at once. Okay. Next is cutting of the mushrooms. What I do is, you need to have a separate container because later on I'll show you why that's so important, right? So for now, you're gonna put the tomatoes in a separate container, okay, like this. And I'll show you why it's super important to do that later. And then for now, I'm going to combine the cut mushroom. And as you can hear, my rice right now is finished steaming and it's starting to cook. So the 12 minutes is starting to run. Countdown. Okay, so the mushroom is all cut. And right now I still have a little bit of onion here, so let me just finish cutting the onion. Okay. Okay, and then next is tofu. Okay. This is a very small piece of tofu, so for the tofu, for now, just mix it with the onions, okay, and put it in your cutting board for now. Okay, so next we can whisk the eggs, and once the eggs are ready, we can start making it. Okay. Usually, I choose to have 2 eggs in my dish today. You can have anywhere between, 2 to 4. That's typically a good. Before you whisk the eggs, make sure you sprinkle a little bit of salt here. And if you don't want an accident of the salt, you can use your hand, to measure it first. Typically just a little bit like that, or maybe a little bit more, right? Like that, okay? And then put it in, okay? And then use a whisk. That is pretty much done. And the green onion and the garlic is for later, when we try to increase, the overall taste. So we typically choose to put them in after, at the end. Okay, so right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a container, and I'm going to put the onion and the tofu. Okay, and I'll show you the importance of that action. Okay. So I think the prep work is all done, and it took probably, if you were to do it without talking and, like a little bit more, if you're familiar with the whole process, probably it will take, I don't know, about 5 minutes to do the prep work. Okay, so I turned on the stove, okay. I left the fire at high, okay, because we don't have a lot of time. We need high fire to make the cooking process faster, okay. So what I typically do is I'm going to use a kitchen towel, a dry kitchen towel, and if your pan is wet, if there's water, just wipe it dry, okay, because you have to make sure that the oil does not burn with water, and that's a no-no. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to get, so before you put in the oil, make sure you get all the items ready for cooking. Okay. Okay, so put in a little bit of oil, and if you're unsure of the amount, just use your spatula to control. So typically what I do is, just this much. And then what I do is so basically you want to make sure that the oil is enough to cover the base of the pan. Okay, so right now that looks perfect. It's covered all the areas of the pan. And then because the first thing we're going to put in is the eggs, we want to make sure that the temperature is appropriate. Okay, and this is a very important part. You don't want the temperature to be too high for the egg to go crazy once you put it in, right? And you also don't want the temperature to be too low for the eggs to not do anything. So right now the temperature is about right. Typically I say, so this is the perfect temperature that you put in the egg. You can hear this simmer sound. Okay, and it's not a loud simmer sound, because sometimes if the temperature is too high, you're gonna get a very loud sound. Okay, Okay, so what you simply do is you tilt the pan to cover your frying pan with eggs, right? And then maybe count 10 seconds or 5 seconds for the egg to cook a little bit. And this is the part where I want to kind of emphasize that I think the oil temperature is super important for Chinese cooking. What I typically do, with any dish with an egg, you put in the egg first. And typically what I do is before you put in the oil, turn on the fire and let the pan warm up a little bit. Okay? So maybe count to 10 in your head, right? 10 seconds. And the oil will typically warm up and then, not oil, but the pan will typically warm up at that point. And then you pour in the oil. And after you put in the oil, make sure you tilt the pan to make sure that the oil gives enough coverage of your pan. And then you count to 10 again for the oil to warm up. And then at which point you can try it with your hands. If your hands can go to this low, then that's a good temperature to put your eggs in. But then if it's too hot that your hand has to be this high, that's too hot. Okay, that just means that your egg is probably going to splash all over the place. Okay, so right now the egg is cooking perfectly. It's a nice little pancake shaped egg, and it's hard and solid now. And you can simply turn that over. You don't have to worry too much about presentation, but turn it over and make sure that the other side gets cooked. So what I typically do is when the egg is ready, right, I take out the egg onto a clean plate. Okay. So now as you can see, there's still a little bit of oil left in the pan, right? And that's perfect, and that's time to put in the potatoes and the carrots. And as you can see, the simmering, okay, it's the right level of simmering. It's not splashing everywhere, but at the same time, it creates a perfect aroma. And this is the time when we put in salt. Again, use your hand to measure the salt a little bit. So you typically put this much and spray it on. Okay, and stir a little bit, maybe 2 or 3 times. And this is the time when you put in water and you get your lid ready. Okay, so I'll explain why you need a lid and why you need to put in water, okay? So typically the potato and the carrots take longer to cook because they're hard in material, and when you put in the water, you're gonna hear a lot of splashing because oil meets water. That's a huge conflict, right? So especially in heat. Okay, so what you do is you want your food items to be kind of stir-fried in oil, but at the same time you want it to cook fast. How do you cook fast? Is you add in water and you put a lid on it, okay, to contain the heat within the pan, and then that way your potato and your carrot is going to cook faster. Okay, right now I can see the potato is a little bit cooked and the carrots are getting cooked as well. So typically, my lid has some size issues that it kind of drips down when I, cook, but if you have a perfect lid, then the water will not drip down. It'll just maintain in the pan, which you don't have to open and let the water drain all the time. Okay, so let the potato and the carrot cook for about 2 minutes. I would say 1 to 2 minutes. Okay, so I typically use 2 of the garlic. So you don't have to peel. You can just simply cut the head off, and then the peel will come out like this. Okay, So that's enough garlic for this dish, and then if you want some green onions, you can cut some green onions here. Yep, so this is about the right time where you can start putting in the other ingredients. And here's I want to reference back to the earlier point I was talking about separating each ingredient into different containers, and some ingredients can be mixed together and some cannot be. It's simply because of cooking time. Okay, so carrot, potatoes, they take more time to cook. That's why you need to combine them together and put them down first. And then tomato and mushrooms take less time, and this is the time where you can combine the two. Okay. And also, as you can see, I just threw in all of the ingredients, okay, at the same time. Okay, I didn't, if I had left ingredients on my cutting board, I would have to go like one by one, and that's not going to help you, okay, because sometimes the oil gets really hot and you need to put in the ingredients really quickly and put the lid on. So in this case we're okay because the oil is not as hot, and earlier I put in some water, so then we're okay for now. And I usually don't like to put a lot of salt, so I skip the salt process in this round of addition. Okay, so what I'll do is, again, add in water. The tomatoes typically generate more sauce, okay, as you heat it up. So I typically, add a little bit more water in this round to kind of provide the tomatoes with a little bit more juice for it to generate more tomato juice. And also, I like to make this sort of like a stew type of dish as well. Okay. So that's sort of this much water, and it looks like a lot, and trust me, it's gonna become more as you put the lid back on, and then you let it cook for about 3 minutes or so.
A few moments later.
Okay, so now let's take a look at the rice situation. So as we were making the dish in the pan, the rice actually finished cooking. Okay, as you can see right now, it's just keeping warm here, so that's great. Okay, so what we typically do is you let it sit for a little bit until this little button goes down. Okay, and then right now I just have some time to take out the ribs that I had made over the weekend. Okay, so look at this rib. It's very delicious. I use Instant Pot again to make this rib over the weekend, and it tastes very good. And if you want to know how to make ribs using Instant Pot like this, Asian style rib, I'll be showing you how to do that in my next video. Okay, so right now the tomatoes are getting really soft. Okay, so, and the potatoes and carrots continue to be cooked. So this is perfect because then, you have all the ingredients are getting cooked all together. Okay, and now you can put in the remaining ingredients, the tofu and the onions. Okay. Again, I like to put them all together so I can put them down all at once.